There is a stone carving. It's over 3,000 years old. It sits between the paws of the Great Sphinx of Giza, and it shows two sphinxes. Not one, two. For decades, Egyptologists called it symbolism, a myth, propaganda carved by a pharaoh who wanted to justify his throne. But this week, yesterday, a team of researchers announced something that could rewrite everything. They think they found the second one, buried right beneath our feet at Giza. And if they're right, this would be the single greatest archaeological discovery in human history. So let's talk about what actually happened, because the headlines are going crazy right now, and a lot of them are missing the real story. On March 26th, 2026, literally yesterday, an Italian researcher named Filippo Biondi went on a podcast and dropped this claim. Using satellite radar technology, the kind that sends signals into the Earth from space, his team believes they've detected a massive structure buried beneath the Giza plateau. A structure with the same dimensions, the same geometry, the same symmetry as the Great Sphinx we already know about. He said, "We are finding precise geometrical correlation, 100% correlation, in this symmetry." His confidence level in this finding, he put it at 80%. Now, before you lose your mind, we need to pump the brakes slightly, because this hasn't been excavated. It hasn't been physically confirmed, and some of the most respected archaeologists in the world are deeply skeptical. But here's why you should keep watching, because the story here is way deeper than just, did they find a sphinx? This goes back thousands of years, and the clues were hiding in plain sight the entire time. Let's talk about the Dream Stele. Around 1401 BC, during the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose IV, a massive slab of stone was carved and placed directly between the front paws of the Great Sphinx. The official story goes like this. Thutmose IV, before he became Pharaoh, fell asleep in the shadow of the Sphinx. And in his dream, the Sphinx, which represented the sun god Ra, spoke to him. It promised him the throne of Egypt. In return, he had to clear the sand that had buried the Sphinx up to its neck. He did. He became Pharaoh. He built the stele as a thank you. Neat story, right? Typical Pharaoh propaganda. Except, on that stele, weathered, ancient, crumbling, there are two Sphinx figures carved side by side. Egyptologists have always said, symbolic, just artistic convention. But Biondi's team looked at that carving and asked a completely different question. What if it wasn't symbolic at all? What if it was a map? What if some ancient craftsman 3,400 years ago was quietly telling us exactly what was buried out there, and we just weren't smart enough to read it? Here's the part that genuinely blew my mind when I dug into this. The reason Biondi's team can make this claim now, in 2026, and not 10 years ago, is because of a technology called synthetic aperture radar. This is satellite-based radar that can penetrate the ground. Not a little bit, we're talking dozens of meters deep in the right conditions. Dry desert sand, which has almost no water content, is practically ideal for this kind of imaging. The team converted the radar signals they got back into sound waves, which let them essentially hear the shape of what's underground. And what they heard, what the data showed, was symmetry. Precise, deliberate architectural symmetry. A mound of compacted sand in a location that, when you draw a line from the center of the Khafra Pyramid to the known Sphinx, and then mirror that line from the Great Pyramid, points to exactly one spot. The same spot. Now here's where I want to be honest with you. This same team, back in 2025, claimed they'd found a vast underground city beneath Giza. That announcement was met with massive pushback from the scientific community. Theoretical physicist Sabine Hossenfelder publicly called their methodology into question. Egypt's former antiquities minister Zahi Hawass said their data was neither scientifically approved nor validated. So we have to hold both things at once. The technology is real. The question is whether this specific team is using it correctly. Let's do something. Let's just, for a moment, assume they're right. Assume there is a second Sphinx buried under the sand at Giza. What does that mean? First, it means the ancient Egyptians built not one, but two of the most recognizable monuments on Earth, and then at some point decided to bury one of them so completely that it disappeared for thousands of years. Why? A natural sandstorm, intentional burial, some kind of ritual? We genuinely don't know. Second, it means the Giza plateau was designed as a system. Not just 3 pyramids and a sphinx, but a precisely engineered complex with a hidden twin, a mirror image, a counterpart, that creates a geometric pattern so exact that modern satellite radar can still detect its outline. That's not primitive. That's not stumbled upon. That is intentional genius on a scale that should make us deeply uncomfortable about how we talk about ancient civilizations. Third, and this is the one that really gets me, if there's a second Sphinx, there's almost certainly a chamber beneath it. The known Sphinx has been theorized for decades to sit above a hidden room. Ground-penetrating radar as far back as the 1990s suggested anomalies beneath it. Egypt has never authorized a full excavation. A second Sphinx, undisturbed for potentially thousands of years. Whatever's inside would be pristine. Here's the thing nobody really wants to talk about. Egypt has historically been extremely resistant to invasive archaeology at Giza. Zahi Hawass, who ran Egyptian antiquities for decades, has blocked, denied and dismissed more excavation proposals than I can count, including ones from respected institutions with serious funding. And look, there are legitimate reasons for that. This is Egypt's cultural heritage. The site has been damaged before by reckless excavation. Political and national pride are real factors, but it does create a frustrating situation where we have technology that can see underground, teams willing to investigate, and a bureaucratic wall preventing the one thing that would settle this debate forever, actually digging. Biondi says his team has prepared a formal proposal for Egyptian authorities to begin excavation. They've identified potential entry shafts between the known Sphinx and the Khafre pyramid. One shaft is reportedly blocked by debris, which they say could be cleared. Whether Egypt will say yes is another question entirely. Here's where we are. A team of Italian researchers says they've found a second Sphinx at Giza. The mainstream archaeological community is skeptical. The technology they used is real. The claim has not been confirmed. Egypt hasn't agreed to excavate. And somewhere under the sand, maybe, possibly, if 3,000 years of hints mean anything, there's a stone lion with a human face. Waiting. We've known about this site for centuries. We've had the carving for 3,400 years. We have the radar data right now, and we still haven't looked. I'll be following this story closely. The moment Egypt responds to the excavation proposal, or the moment another team confirms or debunks this data, I'll have a video up within 24 hours. If you want to be there when that happens, subscribe. Hit the bell. Because if this turns out to be real, you're going to want to have watched this video first. I'll see you in the next one.